Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier, a subscriber requested rant here on One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan YouTube channel. Request was basically to address Seth Rollins' injury. What effect will that have on the WrestleMania card coming up? And, well, the first thing we should say is that it's unclear the extent of Seth Rollins' injury. I believe that what they're saying is torn meniscus. And once again, if you're not there in the actual doctor's room or hospital room, according to Dave Meltzer, it doesn't really necessarily mean a goddamn thing. For all we know, this injury is a work. We don't know if he's actually got an injury or the extent. Maybe he just put some ice on it, put some dirt on it, rub it up, and go out and wrestle like a man, like they would have done in the 1970s, okay? I'm sure Harley Race and Dory Funk Jr. Wrestled with torn meniscuses 6 days a week and didn't care as much as these prima donna fucks. But anyway, so let's address what we know. We don't know a goddamn thing, except it was looking like a Seth Rollins CM Punk match at WrestleMania, probably the night one main event. That's what everybody's predicting, but hey, predictions can be wrong, and oftentimes it's best when the prediction is kind of altered a bit for excitement. Remember that year you had The Rock and Cena? They picked their match a year in advance. It was kind of a boring year because then it's like, well, what's the variable? If we know that it's going to be Punk versus Cena in the main event, why are we tuning in at all to watch everything up to that? So in any event, my point is it's nice when things are a little bit shaky. And if it is an actual injury, my best to Seth Rollins and his meniscus. I hope his meniscus comes back in one piece soon enough and so forth. You don't like to see a person get injured, of course, or a talented guy in this case, and so on and so forth. However, what would I do if I were the Booker man, if I was sitting there in Titan Tower, whatever the fuck it's called now, pushing the buttons, making matches? And you get all these other variables. The Rock, will The Rock show up at the Royal Rumble a week from today on Saturday, I believe the 27th of January 2024. Will Cody's dream ever come true? Will he ever get to beat the evil Samoan Roman Reigns in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania? Some people are proposing now a three-way dance, a three-man match, which I don't particularly think is a good use of The Rock. I think that, at 50 plus years old, I don't know if you want to waste your Rock matches. He's got very few matches that he's ever going to do anymore. Why would you want The Rock to be put in a three-man match where basically instead of 50% of the ring, he's in 1/3 of it or use 1/3, whatever the math is. I just don't think that's a good use. If The Rock was going to wrestle 3 or 4 matches and you had The Rock and Cody and Roman in a three-way and then they kind of broke off and did little separate programs, that might be more interesting. Kind of a flashback, if you remember, to Chris Benoit and Triple H and Shawn Michaels around WrestleMania 20, I believe. They kind of did that with all those guys. Like they had their three-man match, they had a 3-man rematch. And then I think Benoit had to break off and wrestle both Michaels and Triple H in singles matches. So that they kind of squeezed that for all it's worth. With this, I don't see The Rock, with his busy Hollywood schedule, and now the Screen Actors strike is over and everyone's making movies again. I really just think that the only match of interest to The Rock is with Roman Reigns. I don't see a Cody Rhodes versus Rock match being terribly exciting. I could see The Rock doing that just as kind of a tribute to Dusty and his father and the days gone by of that era of wrestling. I could see The Rock wrestling Cody one-on-one just as a tip of the hat to the prior generation. But I really don't think so. I think The Rock is going to do a one-on-one with Roman at some point, whether if it's at WrestleMania or this Australian Perth show. But here's a concept, gentlemen, and I know that all the WWE fans are excited, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? What are we going to get? Like the WWE fans always say that, what are we going to get at WrestleMania? Like a child asking what he's going to get from Santa Claus, and that's why I try to remove myself from these debates and these inquisitions, because it's kind of childish, you know. It's wondering what you're going to get. Like, what present as a fan will you get from the high and mighty Santa Claus that is the WWE? But what I would do if I were the Booker man is I would do maybe something like this. You know, let's take all the names and put them to the side for a minute. How about this as a nice little situation, a setup, if you would? How about let's say this Seth Rollins title is vacated. Like, let's say that this title with basically no history and perhaps no present, but let's give it a future of this World Heavyweight title, which means little to me, if anything. How about the winner of the Elimination Chamber is put into a main event spot at WrestleMania by winning the Elimination Chamber, and their opponent is the winner of the Royal Rumble, and the two winners of those two separate pay-per-view main events wrestle for this vacant World Heavyweight Championship. So whoever wins the Elimination Chamber, and you have 6 guys, so you could do some, you know, fairly easily enough, do some qualifying matches to take time up on, you know, 3 matches on Raw, 3 on SmackDown, or maybe you want to put NXT in the mix, you know. You could have 2 on NXT, 2 on SmackDown, 2 on Raw, however you figure it out. You get 6 qualifying guys for the Elimination Chamber. Drew McIntyre might be a good guy to win this, you know, that would be interesting. And then you have the winner of the Rumble. And who could be your winner of the Rumble? You could make it CM Punk, you know, you could have CM Punk wins the Rumble, Drew McIntyre wins the Elimination Chamber match, or flip that if you want. And, you know, you have this setup, and then it's an automatic WrestleMania main event. And then, you know, Punk's whole big dick in his ass has been he needs to main event a WrestleMania. Well, what you could do with him is you could throw him the first night of WrestleMania this year, you know, against Drew McIntyre for this vacant title, and then he could still bitch and complain because he wasn't the main eventer of the second night of WrestleMania. So then he gets to do that next year, or tries to do it, or whatever the fuck. Then, of course, you have the whole deal where Seth, you know, 4 to 6 weeks. Well, that still kind of brings him back in time for WrestleMania if everything goes as planned. So, I mean, you could always throw him back in, and you could say, well, you know, these 2 guys were slated to wrestle for the vacant title, but now the champion who was injured is back, so he gets to be in the match, and then you make it a 3-man match. I mean, you could do all these wonderful things. And, you know, to the WWE's credit, they've stocked up on so many talents, and they have a lot of guys like Drew, who, you know, he hasn't been used particularly well in several years. I mean, submitting to Bobby Lashley to a full Nelson in the first night of WrestleMania after the pandemic era in Tampa, that was pretty shameful to his character. But, I mean, you know, he's still a valuable talent and so forth. And, you know, you could do a lot of stuff. So, I mean, I think the match that everybody still wants, one way or another, is Roman. Why am I sorry? You should be sorry. It should be The Rock versus Roman Reigns. And, you know, so, I mean, I guess the map, I guess I would put on it is, just as an example, The Rock versus Roman Reigns at this Perth, Australia show, with the kangaroos as lumberjacks. And then, you know, the kangaroos are fighting off the bloodline or whatever the fuck. And then Roman retains, Roman pins his cousin, hada, hada, hada. And then have Roman versus Cody at WrestleMania. And then in the meantime, you can do this whole thing that I'm discussing, having the winner of the Rumble face the winner of the Elimination Chamber, and then you kind of put some value onto that vacant World Heavyweight title match. So I guess I would... Now, how does Cody get his match at whatever the fuck, Mania? I don't know. You know, you'd have to write some shit for that. But that's it. I mean, it's all fun and fucking dandy. You could do other things. You could... I mean, if The Rock's going to do 2 matches... That might be nice if he actually has to win the Elimination Chamber or win the Royal Rumble, and then the Rock gets his match at Roman Reigns, and then perhaps you can use that other stipulation for other people. So there's a lot of things we could do, folks. Okay. Have a wonderful weekend, wrestling fans. I'll talk